All right, let's get into it.
Okay.
You want to talk about the note? This is basically Jersey Shore season 2 all over again. They got a note written here from Jim Rutherford, and you want to dive into it, Quads. Go ahead, do your thing.
Okay, so let's pull it up. Yeah, this graphic design, by the way, just oh my gosh, I was yeah. Anyways, we're not going to get into it. Hardworking folks over there at Canucks Sports and Entertainment content team. We're not going to start ragging on people. Let's go. Okay, so this was the note from Jim Rutherford, and I'm sure the podcast listeners have seen it already. It's available on CanucksArmy.com. I'm not going to read the entire note, Chris, but I do want to zero in on some parts. So we'll break it down in parts. Obviously, it comes from Jim Rutherford, not Francesco Aquilini. That's the first thing that you notice is usually this letter does come from chairman and owner Francesco Aquilini, this year coming from president of hockey operations, Jim Rutherford. So at the start, obviously, he says, on behalf of Canucks Sports and Entertainment's ownership, the hockey ops team, and all that, talks about continued support for fans, talked about the passion of the Canucks fan base and how he doesn't take it for granted, that type of thing. And then the big part, this is the meat and potatoes of the letter, Chris, talks about having expectations for this season that simply were not met. This team needs to get better, and we will get better. Then he hits enter. He went to the Thomas Drance School of letter writing. He hit enter and made that just a line. So there's a lot of intensity with that line. I probably should just read the note. It probably would have been easier to follow along than what I'm doing right now. But anyways, he talks about how the Canucks, this is what I really want to zero in on. The Canucks are currently the 5th youngest team in the league, and we believe in our core of elite players. Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, JT Miller, and Thatcher Demko are exceptional players who continue to elevate their game. We are equally excited about the emerging new players on our roster, which includes Andrei Kuzmenko, Ilya Mikheyev, Ethan Bear, and the recently acquired Philip Roenick. This is a terrific base to build upon. There is still much work to do to upgrade the areas of our team. This includes being active in college and European free agent markets, along with managing our cap space by using all options available to us. Cough, cough, buyout. That's what I take from that. And that's like, I'll get your take on it, Chris, but I know a lot of people were looking at it and saying, oh, well, he didn't mention Brock Besser. You can't mention Brock Besser right now as part of your core. It doesn't mean he's getting traded. Same thing with Connor Garland. I saw people saying, well, you didn't mention Connor Garland. Is that really your core? Is that your exciting base to build on? Like, those are your supporting pieces. When the Tampa Bay Lightning or whoever send out letters to their season ticket holders, they're not like, look at Yanni Gourde. Like, they're not talking about, I know he doesn't play there anymore, but I mean, they're not talking about middle six wingers, and they're not talking about those players. They're talking about their top end guys. And for the Canucks, that's obviously Pettersson, Hughes, Miller, and Demko. That's what it is for the Canucks. That's what it comes down to. Those are your top end guys. Obviously, Kuzmenko's, emerging in that conversation, but he was still included in the acquisition thing. So I'm not reading into it too much that Besser and Garland weren't mentioned. I think we would be making fun of them a little too much if they did mention just everybody who's played in the top 6 this season, because if you do Garland and Besser, that's basically what you're doing. You're very close to mentioning Phil DiGiuseppe in the same breath as talking about your core. That's right. And hey, we'd have no problem with that. But yeah, I took that away from the letter, and I'm not one of these people that's reading into it too much and saying, well, hey, no Besser, no Garland. I'm not personally doing that personally.
Yeah, it depends. You can kind of take it two ways. Whatever name is said and whatever names aren't said are going to elicit a lot of response, obviously, from the fan base. And I think the noticeable ones were, no mention of Brock Besser, no mention of Connor Garland, and the mention of Ethan Bear, right? The 3 big takeaways from the names, I think, is like, Ethan Bear doesn't even have a contract for next year. Apparently they want to get that done here pretty quick. But at the same time, like, the agent's probably looking at this and thinking, player of the future, Ethan Bear, my guy. You got to get him a contract here. So it'll be interesting to see what that contract ends up looking like for Ethan Bear. But I get it. I get why the names, like, I'm not making a huge deal out of it either, saying that Besser's name here, wasn't here. Garland's name wasn't there. Yeah, you're right. Like, you're not going to list off, you're not going to, outline your roster for next season in this article. I was a little surprised to see maybe like some guy like Dakota Joshua doesn't get a little shout out like they've liked him and things like that. But the names aren't going to make me go into, frolic about here and worry about which player is going to be here for next year. It's just, it was a little interesting to see it from Jim Rutherford, but at the same time, in my eyes, like, this is the president's job, right? Like, I would, as much as, we could have gained content from an Aquilini letter, we should be getting this from the president. This to me should come from the president. So I don't think that's a big deal either. This is just like, to me, this is not really much of a story. This is just the note from the president about the team. Yeah, the team's been bad. Yeah, they got to be better next year.